Hi everyone, welcome back to Stamp with Anna, and today I have a really cool fun fold card for you. It's called a double Cascade, and I've made it using the Tropical Oasis suite that's in the new Celebration. And I'm going to try to stand this up so you can see it to get its full effect. It does lie flat, and then when you stand it up, you see you have these two cascading sides along. Let me bring it down a little. You have two cascading sides so that you can stand it up and enjoy it. And each panel is has a different designer series paper. And so this is what I'm going to show you today. It looks more complicated than it is. Trust me, once you see the video and we go step by step, you will agree that it is not that complicated. So there are a couple things to keep in mind when you're picking your papers for your card. You do want at least an 80-pound solid base, because this is going to hold. It has to be kind of sturdy. So fortunately, all of Stampin' Up's papers are 80 pound, so that would that'd be a good place to start. And also, when you're picking your designer series paper, you have to consider the design. And I have some old papers here. Let me show you what I mean. If you are using, this is an old one, I forget, well, positively, I forget what it's called, but it's very, very old. You can see the two sides of first of all, you do need double-sided paper. The two sides of the paper coordinate beautifully, and they're not directional, meaning they don't have a clear way where they have to be, the image has to be one way. This is your easiest bet if you can find a paper like this, because when you're cutting it, you don't have to give a second thought to anything. It's all just going to work out great. Then you have the second best way, or good choice, would be a paper that one side is clearly directional. So you can see this is from the Monster Bash, that was it from the holiday catalog that just retired. The bats clearly go one way, and the back side is just all of this design, and it doesn't matter if it's this way or if it's this way. You have pretty much the same design. That would be the second choice. Then there is the paper that is directional on both sides. So this one here, the pineapples are clearly standing up and the bananas are hanging, and the back side has pineapple that clearly are standing one way. If you have paper that is directional on both sides, you can still use it, but you do have to do a little bit of cutting. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use this one here that has one clear directional side and one not directional side, because I want to show you what happens when you use this. I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'll confuse you, but at one point one of your panels may be upside down, and I want to show you how you fix that with just a quick switch of two panels. So forget I said that, but that's why we're going to use this one. And one thing I tried to stress to the ladies yesterday was, I know it's difficult as you're cutting your papers and you're seeing your design upside down, but you really need to just keep that out of your mind, because it all works out in the end. It doesn't matter if you've done your cutting right, your first cut right. It doesn't matter how they line up before you put it together. Okay, I know that's confusing, but when we get there, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so let's get started. Let me find my notes. You all obviously need a piece of coordinating cardstock, and because I'm going to use this one, I'm going to use a piece of black cardstock, so that looks nice on both sides. I could also use the pumpkin pie. That might be a nice contrast. You know what? Hold on. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my cutter, excuse me, my trimmer, and open up my arm. And I have my piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. Now, if it's not Stampin' Up, I would suggest that you just, sometimes papers aren't a true 12 by 12. Just give it a quick, this is Stampin' Up, but I'm just showing you. And just put it in there just to make sure that you do have a true 12 by 12, especially if you're using a patterned piece of cardstock that comes off of a pad. Sometimes those aren't true 12 by 12. You do need this to be true 12 by 12. So this is 12 by 12. And what I want to do is cut this down so that it's 9 by 12. So I'm going to take this over to my 9. Bring this over here so you can see. I'm going to bring this over to my 9 and I'm going to cut it. Still getting used to my new trimmer. Okay, and I'm just going to put that piece aside. So now I have a piece of cardstock that is 9 by 12. I want to turn it so that the 12 is along the top, and I want to score this. And I'm going to score it at 2, at 4, at 6. Just bring that in right up to 6. At 8. And at 10. Okay, so let's recap. We have a piece, started out with a piece of 12 by 12. I cut it down to be 9 by 12. And I scored it at 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, that's step 1. Now, I need to cut this paper. My goal is to cut it diagonally and have, let me visualize that for you, cut it diagonally and have 2 equal parts. And when I cut, I want, let me put my ruler on so you can see it. My goal is to have this be 3 inches and this be 6 inches, and then obviously the flip side, this be 6 inches and this be 3 inches. So I'm going to show you how you can take a ruler and mark 6 and then come over here and mark 3. You can do it that way. But I have my grid paper here, my Stampin' Up! Grid paper. So I'm just going to put this here in the corner and make sure that it's lined up beautifully, nice and square. And I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to make a tick mark at 6. Now the other side of my grid paper doesn't have a 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper, go 180 degrees, line it back up, square it nicely, and make a tick at 6 again. Okay, so it's 6 and 6. And when I put my ruler up, you can see I have 2 identical pieces. Before I do any cutting, I do want to double check. So I'm going to put my ruler in right here, and I'm going to see this is 6. I want you to see it. This is 6 inches, and this is 3 inches. And I'm going to turn it over, and the same thing. This is 6 inches, and this is 3 inches. So I think I'm good to go. So now what I have to do is bring my trimmer back in, and I put this sideways so that you can see it. Here is the groove, my pencil. Here is the groove that the blade cuts along, right? So what I want to do is put one of my tick marks in that groove on this side, and the other tick mark on the groove on this side. See that? One is in there and one is in there. I don't know if this whole thing gets captured on the range of my camera, but I'm going to give it a whirl, and I'm going to line those up perfectly. All right, I'm going to drop my blade, and I'm going to slice along that line. Now if I've done this correctly, I'm going to have 2 identical pieces of cardstock. Nope, don't feel like it cut there. Okay. Nope, there they are. Remove my trimmer, and I have 2 identical pieces of cardstock. See that? There's my little tick marks. Okay, they're identical. I'm going to put those aside. Oh, no, not yet. I'm not going to put them aside yet. Okay, see, so they're identical. Now I have to work on these to make my interlocking part of my cascade. I'm going to take one of my cards, and again, I need to make tick marks. So I need to make a tick mark along the long side is on my left. I'm going to square that up. And I'm going to make a tick mark at 3. Okay? Now again, this side of my paper does not have the same grid line that this does. And there's a couple ways you can do that. Each one of these squares, let me just move this, each one of these squares on the grid paper is 1/4 of an inch. So you could go up and count 6 and make a tick there, and you know that that's 1 1/2. Or you could turn it this way, line it at 3, because we know that that's 3, and make a tick mark at 1 1/2. So it's 6 of one, 1/2 dozen of another. Or you can go back to your trusty ruler and come up at 3 and make a tick, and come up at 1 1/2 and make a tick. However you get there is your choosing, but just remember you have a tick mark on 3 and a tick mark on 1 1/2. Now what we're going to do is going to use a ruler that doesn't slip. I like this one, it has a cork backing. And I'm going to line those up. It's not quite as, it reaches, but it's not exact, right? And that's okay, you don't need that. You're not making a line. You're just using this as a reference. Okay, so I have this side of my ruler hits that tick mark, and this side of my ruler hits that tick mark. Now with my pencil, I'm going to go over to the left side, the long side, and I'm going to just make a line on this first score. I'm going to make a line right there. I'm going to skip that one, the second one. I'm going to come to the one in the middle, and I'm going to make a line there as well. I'm going to skip this next one, and I'm going to come to this last one and make a line. Okay, so again, what we've done is we've lined our ruler up from one tick mark to the other, and with using a ruler as a guide, we made a tick mark at the first, the middle, and the last. Okay, now we're going to take a pair of shears. I have mine here. Okay, and on just those 3 panels, we are going to cut from the bottom up. And when we cut, we want to make sure we cut right inside that score. You can do this with your paper trimmer, or if you like, or you can do it with scissors like I'm doing. But you want to cut right in that groove line, okay? So there is my first. And here is my middle. And here is my last. Okay, now I'm done with all of my markings on this paper, so I'm going to come in at this point and erase all of my pencil marks. Now, this piece is done. I'm going to take it and put it aside. I'm going to bring in my other piece, and I'm going to do the exact same thing measurement wise. Cut wise, it's a bit different. So again, I'm going to square it up on my paper, and I'm going to make a tick at 3 on one side and a tick at 1 1/2 on the other side. And again, you could also do it with your ruler. Measure up 3 and tick, and measure up 1.5, and tick. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the ruler and line up our tick marks. And the same thing. First panel, we make a little tick. Middle panel, we make another tick. And last panel, we make another tick. So again, we have our paper with the long side on the left, marked at 3 on one side, 1.5 on another, and then using our ruler as our guide, we made a tick mark on the first score line, on the middle score line, and on the last score line. Now we have to cut. On this one here, we cut from the bottom up. What we want so that it interlocks is to cut from the top down. So you can do it again with your scoreboard, your paper trimmer, or you can do it freehand. So I'm going to turn my paper upside down so I have the straight edge along the top, and I'm going to cut again right in the middle of that score line. There's one, there's my middle one, and there is my last one. Okay, and again, I'm done with my lines, so I'm going to erase all of my tick marks. Now, I'm going to give this a dry run so I can show you how it's going to be. So I'm going to accordion fold my 2 pieces. Okay. And when you put them together, you see they fit like this, they cascade. And what you want is your bottom flaps both to open out this way. Okay? See that? And if you fold it like I did the first time, I went this backwards instead of forwards, you just take it apart and do it again. It's not a problem. Okay, so now I'm going to give it a dry run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first 2 slits and interlock them. See how that works? And my second set, I'm going to interlock them. And my last set, I'm going to interlock them. Okay? Now this is where you check to see if you've made your slits deep enough. Okay? Now put it all in and then just open this up. Okay, and here we go. We have our card is assembled. Now I can see this is sticking up. It's not flush. So that means I didn't make this slit, probably on this one here, deep enough. Otherwise, this would slide all the way down. So what I'm going to do is disassemble and just cut a tiny bit more on this side here. So it's easy to fix. It's an easy fix. I go this way. I'm right-handed, so this works better for me. A little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there. And now I'm going to assemble again. Interlock, interlock, and interlock. Okay. Now when you're doing this, you might think, oh no, that's not opening right, but you do. It does work. If you hold it up straight and you know how it's going to turn out, just bend, bend, and bend. And again, now when I push down, level these all off, they line up on the bottom. So if they don't line up on the bottom, that just means your slit mark wasn't cut quite far enough. Disassemble it and then try it again and just keep making that adjustment. Now, I know we just put this together, so now we're going to take it apart again. Okay, so, and that's another reason why you really do need some sturdy paper, because with all of the maneuvering on it, you want a paper that's going to hold up. So now we're going to put this aside. and we have to cut our designer series paper. So again, I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and get my notes. Now, remember, one side of my paper has clear orientation. I need to put this in my trimmer. Here is how the bats fly. They're going horizontal. I need to turn my paper so that my bats are now horizontal. Excuse me, vertical. So I want to cut this piece of paper at 8 3/4. Excuse me. Yes, 8 3/4 and 11 3/4. When you have your paper in and your design is at 180, that's where you cut the 8 3/4. Okay? 8 3/4. Then when I turn this 180 degrees, my design is going in the right way, the correct way I should say, and that's where I'm going to cut at 11 3/4. Okay, and this piece I'm going to discard, and this piece you would use if you had to do any kind of splicing. So again, we had a 12 by 12 piece of paper, okay, and because I have a line, a clear orientation, I put it in my paper at 180 degrees. I put it in my trimmer, excuse me, at 180 degrees. I cut 8 3/4, turned it, and did 11 3/4. Now we have to take this and make this, do the same thing we did with the cardstock. We need to make 2 equal diagonal parts. We don't have to do any scoring on this because this is going to be cut up. Let me show you. This is going to be cut up in this like this panel and this panel, okay? So, again, we have our paper, and it's on our mat horizontally with the 11 3/4 along the top. We're going to square it up on our grid paper, and we're going to come up and my notes make a tick mark at 5 7/8. So if you have this grid paper, 5 7/8 is the tick, is the line right before 6. Okay? And then I'm going to turn it 180 degrees and do the same thing. 5 7/8. And there's my tick mark. Again, if you were using a ruler, let's bring in our ruler. If we're doing it this way, and on the left side, we're going to come to 5 7/8. And there's our tick mark. And on the right side, we're going to come up 2 7/8. And there's my tick mark, okay? So again, how you get there is, this keeps moving my paper here. How you get there is up to you and how you're comfortable. But that's what your goal is, to have a large piece at 5 7/8 and a small piece at 2 7/8. Now we're going to do the same thing with the trimmer. We're going to bring the trimmer in, and we're going to line up those tick marks. It's kind of hard to see because of the pattern. There's my 5 7/8, and I'm going to swing this one around to my 2 7/8, and I'm going to line those up. Okay, and when they're both in the groove, I'm going to drop my handle and I'm going to slice. If I did this correctly, I have 2 identical pieces of designer series paper, and I do. Now you'll notice, one, the bats are going in the right direction, and one, the bats are not. This is what is most confusing. Do not worry about the design being upside down. That fixes itself when you put the card together. Now actually I'm looking at here, and you can see I'm probably a 1/16 of an eighth off. That's okay too. We can fix that. You can do one of two things. You can either trim that off, or you can leave it, and then when you mount, you just mount using the slanted side as your guide. And again, I will explain that to you. I think I might trim that off. And it really doesn't matter that much, because it's just going to change what your mat, the size of your mat, how much will be showing. And it's not that big of a gap that's going to make much of a difference. And when we're making cards that are flat, it does make a difference. But when you have this kind of card, because you have all these panels, your eye is not drawn to a 1/16 of an inch. That is off. So now we have to cut each one of these into 6 pieces. And we're going to cut it the same way. We're going to put our paper in the 11 3/4 end up on the top, and we're going to cut this at 1 7/8. We're going to make 6 pieces of 1 7/8. So there's 1. I'm going to come over at 1 7/8 again. There's 2. Let me just move them out of my way as I get there. And come in again, 1 7/8. There's 3. Again, 1 7/8. There's 4. Again, 1 7/8. There's 5. And then this piece here is going to have just a sliver taken off of it. 1 7/8. And this is what's left over. Okay? Then we're going to put these aside. We're going to come in with our other piece, and again, the pattern is upside down. Do not even think about the pattern. With the long 11 3/4 sides to the top, we're going to bring this in and make 6 pieces that are 1 7/8. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. And the last one that we're going to cut just a sliver off of. Okay, and there we go. Now we have 2 sets of 6 panels, and this is where your organization needs to come in. You're going to take these and line them up by height. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. You're going to come in with your other set, and you're going to just match them up by size. All right, so I have 2 2 2 2 and 2 2 2 2 2 and 2. Okay, and again, do not look at the design. Now I'm going to bring in the cardstock that's cut on the bottom. Okay, let me just move these out of the way just a tad so I can make sure I have this part in camera shot. Okay, and this is where I suggest you have some paper clips, because before you start gluing anything together, you want to make sure that everything fits. So here's my cut up cardstock. I want to put a piece of this side of the pattern paper on panel 1 and 2 and panel 5 and 6. So here are the 2 ones, the 2 that fit panel 1. Obviously one's upside down and one is not. I'm going to take the one that's not upside down, and I'm going to paper clip it. I'm going to do the same thing with the second size. This one's upside down. I'm going to discard that. And then I'm going to put the one that is right side up on that panel. Now I'm going to move down to this end. Again, this is the size. This one's upside down. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to do the same thing with the smallest one. This one's upside down. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to use the one that's right side up. Okay. So there we go. We have this side with what we'll call side A on the first two and the last two panels. Now we're going to turn this over, and we need to put panels on these two, but we want to use the flip side of the paper. So this is the side of the paper that we just used. We're going to turn it over, and we're going to use that side. Okay, I grab my paper clips. Okay, so let's recap. This side here has side A of our pattern paper, which is the bats, and the back side has side B of our paper in the middle. Okay, and that aside. Now we're going to bring in our second piece of cardstock. Now you see this one here, the left side, the tall side was on the left. We're going to assemble this one with the tall side on the right, and we're also going to assemble it using the side, starting out with side 2 of our paper. So let me get my paper clip that's stuck. So this is the long side. I'm going to come over here to my papers and take the one that fits in that panel, and I'm going to paper clip it. Now I'm going to take the second one, the same size, that fits in the panel, and clip that. And like we did before, we're going to do the two small ends. I'm going to flip this over here, and then I'm going to do this side here. Okay, see that? Now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put these two there. Now this fits, all right, it works fine. What I want to show you, and I might just confuse you, but I hope I don't. I want to just show you what could happen if we had picked this piece up before, and this one was when we did this first side here, right? We did that first, and we came over and we did these sides here, okay? If I had picked up this piece here, excuse me, because I didn't see how it was going to be, how it was going to look, and I just put that there. When I went to do this piece, see how this one's upside down? And you think, oh my goodness, I messed up. If you find that that happens before, you haven't glued them yet, before you glue it, you can just change those two pieces. So don't fret when you get to that point and one of them is upside down. Because they're paper clipped, you can just go in and switch them because they'll fit. Okay? That, I know I'm making that sound confusing, but don't fret. If you've cut the paper correctly and you find that you have one that's upside down, you just go to that corresponding piece on your other panel and it's going to fit. Okay? You just switch it out and it's going to fit. So now we have our panels. And what I did when I made my first part of this, I made one, let me just find it here, that I use as my template. Oh, here it is right here. Let me move this aside. I made one as my template, and I always have this one here. So this, I know where I have to put my panels. So I know that this side here has side B on the two left and side A on the front. And this one here has side A on the two sides and side B in the middle. So I have this as my template, and I can also refer to my cut lines. It's good to have a template just to refer back to. So now we have these, and now we're going to glue them together. I suggest liquid glue because although you have them all in the right place and clipped together, when you go put them down, the liquid glue gives you a little bit of leeway or to just get them in the right position. When you're matting them, you want to mat based on the top, not the bottom. Because let's say these were off a bit and I matted from the bottom, right? These up here wouldn't be lined up straight, and that's what you're going to see. See what I mean? Because you're not really looking at these bottom parts here. So you can see right here, this mat is just a tad bit bigger than this one, but nobody's going to notice that. They will notice if it's up here because this is exposed on the front of the card. So I'm going to take a little bit of my liquid glue and I'm going to apply that generously, and I'm going to line this up on that one, and I'm going to line it up on this one, and again I'm going to have that be equal up on the top. Okay, now I'm going to go do the rest of my panels and I'll be right back. Okay, I've done all of my gluing, and now I'm going to put my card together. I'm going to do it just the way we did it when we dry fitted it. So we have the slices on the top and the slices on the bottom, and we're just going to interlock them. This one now is come apart. This is the most tedious part. And then the last one. Okay. So now that they're all in, come on. Now that they're all in, we're just going to open up our card. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? Now all we have to do is decorate it. Okay, so I have all of my pieces that I'm going to use for the decorating of my card. And again, I know I'm off a season. It is just past Christmas, a brand new year, and I'm doing Halloween. But I chose this paper because I needed to show you the different types of patterns on it. So obviously you could take this card and you could change it up for any occasion, and I'm going to show you a couple that I've done. So here I have a piece of paper. It's 3 3/4 by 5, and I took from the Spooktacular Bash stamp set, I took a greeting and I'm putting it right there. Okay, and I'm going to just attach that. It's my snail, here it is. Attach that to the back of my card. The good thing is I now have a card. What is wrong here? I have a card ready for Halloween next year. Thinking ahead, right? So here it is, and that's where I would sign my card. Now on the front side of it, just a couple things to remember. When you're making your card, and I used the alcohol markers, the Stampin' blends, to color my images in, and of course they go through on the back. So because I'm going to, that's not him, because I'm going to put this here and it's going to show on the back, I made a second template and just backed that. So I'm going to attach that here because I don't want the Stampin' Blends to show. I'm just going to make a backing for that. Okay. So now I'm just going to assemble. Another thing you have to think of as well is like this here. It has words. I don't want to tuck that in like that because then you won't see it. So I need to strategically place it where I'm going to be able to see it. And again, everything before you attach, always do a dry run. You want to check that it's not too busy with the other parts of your card. I mean the patterns of your paper. So I'm going to, I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to attach my vampire, and I didn't have to make a backing for him because he's going flush right here. And then my greeting, I'm going to kind of overlap that right there. And now these here are going to stick out on the back, so you're only going to put adhesive on the bottom half of it, and you're going to put it on the front. Okay, now see, I put a little bit of adhesive right there, and then I'm going to put it where I want it, and I'm going to push. And the same thing with this one. I'm going to put him right here. I'm going to put adhesive on the front. I know it's just contrary to everything we ever do. I'm going to put that, where did I have him? Right here. Okay, and there we go. I could probably put something else there, but you know, sometimes less is more. Now, obviously, because this card is larger than an A2 card, it's not going to fit in an A2 envelope. But if you have the envelope maker, which is on clearance for $12 while supplies last, I would suggest that you get one of those. And so I'm going to show you how to make an envelope to fit this. Okay, I have my envelope card, my envelope maker. So now I have to measure my card so I see what size paper I need. My card measures 4 by 6, looks like 6 1/8. 6 1/16, excuse me. So I'm going to go next size up. I'm going to go 4.5 by 6.5. So I find that here, and card size 4.5 by 6.5, paper size 8 7/8 by 8 7/8. That's the first thing I have to do. So I have my basic gray cardstock, and I'm going to cut this at 8 7/8. By 8 7/8. Now I'm going to bring my envelope punch board back in, and again it says card size 4.5 by 6.5, paper size 8 7/8 by 8 7/8, score line 3 3/4. What does that mean? And you need that number just once. You're going to put your paper in to the paper trimmer. What was it? 3 3/4. You're going to line this up at 3 3/4. Okay, see that? 3 3/4. You're going to punch and make a line. Turn it 90 degrees. Line your score line up with this little line there. Punch and score. Do it again. Line this score line up with that little piece there. Punch and score. And a last time. Line your score line up with that. Punch and score. And now our envelope is made. You just fold on all the score lines. And there's our envelope. Now, the envelope punch board comes with the score, and it stores right there so you won't lose it. And also, on this part right here, that is a corner rounder. I'm going to put my top flap in there. I'm going to punch, and it has rounded. I'm going to do that again. It has rounded my envelope up nice and professionally. And then I just have to attach it. So I'm going to put, actually, before I do that, Some people don't mind this. I don't like this line here, this big tall point here. So what I do is with my ruler, I make a line where this one ends and where this one ends. It's gray, so you really can't see it that well. I make a line, and then I snip that off. Because I just don't like that. It's a personal thing. If it doesn't bother you, save yourself a step. I'm just going to trim that off. And now I'm going to put my envelope together. And to do that, I'm going to put some adhesive on this front flap. You really probably do want an adhesive that's a little stronger than snail. Maybe like tear tape or something. But for the purpose of getting my card done, my envelope done. So now I have my envelope, and this fits beautifully in it. It's a little big, but that's fine with me. I'd rather it be too big than too small. And also, when you go up a size, if you have things that stick out on the sides, it's still going to fit there beautifully. See that? And there we go. Now, I do want to show you a couple other cards that I have. There it is. Okay. This is the one we just made using the Halloween paper. And again, this paper was oriented on one side, so the bats had a certain way they had to go, and the other side was not. Here's one that I made with the Tropical Oasis suite. This is what we used in class yesterday, and that's why I couldn't use it today, because I used all my paper in class. And here is the stunning paper that it comes with. And it has other products that coordinate. You have the Coastal Weave embossing folder. You have the little trinkets that would be really cute to decorate that with. And then on this page here, you can see the stamp. These are the stamps, and it has coordinating dies. This is stunning. I will be doing another one with this because I do have an idea. It's not using designer series paper, so stay tuned. That one's going to be fun. And for this one here, I decorated it with a pineapple, some die-cut leaves, aloha, the palm trees, and just a little saying that says, "Rest and relax, you deserve it." So I think that's cute. And it has these little old-fashioned cars here. And that's great for vacation. So aloha, someone's going to Hawaii. That's a perfect card for them. And there's the back. I did not put any sentiment on that one. Then I did another one. This one was for a co-worker's 60th birthday. And I made her this one. And I gave it to her on January 2nd and asked her to have it back so I could show the ladies on January 4th when I had my class. These papers are not Stampin' Up! Papers, but the stamp set is. This is from Broadway Wishes. The balloons and the balloon stamps with the string, the Make A, and then this is a die cut. And then I just, of course, had to put some jewels on it. And this is the large numbers. I think these are still available. I don't think that they retired. And then there's the back. As you can see, we all signed it. So there's another one that I made. And I thought it was really cute. When I showed my husband, I didn't have as many jewels on it. And I said to him, "What do you think?" And he said, "Oh, I think you need some more sparklies." So the point of that is, I think after all these years, I finally converted my husband and got him to take an interest in my card making. So anyway, there are 3 different cards. Now here are 3 different cards, all using the same technique, and it's just so much fun. I made one of these, and I was instantly addicted to it. So I think I'll be making a lot more. So stay tuned. I'll be trying different things for it. And they do stand up so, so pretty. If you have any questions at all about these cards or any of the products I used, certainly contact me through my blog, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. And if you do not yet have a copy of the new Sale Occasions catalog, and the Celebration catalog, certainly let me know. I'll be glad to send it out to you. Celebration is January 1st through March 31st, and for every $50 you spend, whether it's in the annual catalog, this seasonal catalog, or the clearance rack even, you get to pick a free product from this Celebration catalog. And they really do have, that's adorable, they really do have a lot of nice products. And again, because your card does not fit in a regular 8-2 size envelope, you will want to make your own envelope with the envelope maker punch. So this is on the clearance rack. It was a regular, I think, $25 when it was first out, maybe 20 or 25, I'm not quite sure. And it's on clearance for $12. That's a bargain in and of itself, but it is only while supplies last. So if you plan on making some of these cards and you don't have this, I would jump online and get that. So again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I will be glad to help you out. Thanks so much. Have a great day.